Hi, this is Jindo. Welcome to Tree Leaf. Actually, that is a picture of Jindo a few years ago, like 50 years ago. But that's my dad, Leon, and I'm going to talk a little about him today because he, to me, really sums up what today's section of Instructions from the Cook is all about. Now, my dad never heard of Instructions from the Cook. He wouldn't know a Zen Buddhist from a bagel. My dad was, born and raised in New York. He wasn't a very religious man. We were of Jewish heritage. But I'm going to tell you something about my dad. Some people are just naturally Zen and naturally practice a lot about what we're talking about here. They naturally have a certain attitude towards life that a lot of us have to work at. Let me tell you about Leon, my dad. Leon had his ups and downs. Actually, he didn't have the ups and downs. His life had the ups and downs. And he somehow managed to keep the center, to keep his balance, even when life was knocking him around pretty good. Now, today's section of Instructions for the Cook is really about that. If life hands you cream, if life hands you riches, success, don't let it go to your head. And if life hands you bitter herbs, knocks you for a loop, knocks you down, get up, dust yourself off, and walk ahead. If you have to make soup of bitter herbs, make the finest soup you can. If you make soup of cream, don't become attached to it. This was my father. Now, my dad Leon had his good days. He had days when he was the owner of his own business, very successful. I mean, we weren't super rich or anything, but very comfortable. He was president of a company in New York making furniture, and they supplied a lot of the movie companies. And from what my mother says, they were very, very comfortable. But you'd never know it from our house because my dad was never one to get a fancy car, never one to get a big house. Even in his best days, we lived comfortably, a simple house, a simple car, food on the table. And one day, my dad's company went bankrupt, very much like people are suffering now. It was a period like that. And within a matter of days, weeks, it was all gone. The bank accounts were empty. The creditors were knocking at the door. My dad got through it all, paid back every penny. We lived in the same house. We kept food on the table. But the thing about my dad was, he needed to go out and work as a salesman. He begged some friends to get him a job in a department store. And you could tell he was depressed. He just lost his business. He just lost his dream. And he did sit by the window for a couple of weeks, letting his beard grow, maybe thinking where he was going to go from then. But he dusted himself off, gave himself a shave, polished his shoes, and went out to be a salesman, working on commission. And he continued that because we had to in our family. We weren't rich, just to feed ourselves. He continued that, going to work every day until he was 78 years old. And the thing about what I admire is he never complained, you see. At least, not so the family could know. Kept the same simple life. Kept the same stoic attitude. Was always there with a joke and a smile. Even though He had to go out as an elderly man. Some mornings he would get up, 75, 76, 77 years old, couldn't really breathe, had lung problems. He'd get up, somehow get out the door and go to work because it was the only way we had to feed ourselves at the time. He kept food on the table. That same little house, that same rusty old car that we had for 20 years. Life gave him health scares too. He was into the hospital quite often towards the end, a lot of surgeries. I never heard him complain. He would say, he didn't talk in Zen koans, he talked in baseball. He'd say, take it as it comes. Whatever the pitcher throws at you, just do your best to hit it. And that's who he was. Now, only when I began practicing Zen many years later did I realize that my dad was just that kind of guy. Naturally Zen. Some people are. He just took life as it came. Sometimes he'd sigh, but no real complaints. Glad to be alive, working just like Master Dogen describes, with sincerity at his job, just today and today and today, until he literally couldn't work anymore. He basically stopped working and died. But it wasn't sad. He always just kept going with strength and a smile on his face for the rest of his family. And I thank you, Dad. Thank you very much for showing that natural wisdom and compassion that a lot of us have to work at. That's him again.